Hi, welcome to Clove's Kinder Kitchen, and I'm Clove. Well, today we decided that we would make just a basic tomato spaghetti sauce for dinner, and I thought I would share it with you. This particular sauce, tonight, I'm not going to put any meat in. There's so many different ways to make spaghetti sauce or a marinara sauce, but I just thought I'd show you one of the ways that I do it. So let's go ahead and get started. I went ahead before we started and I cut up my green pepper and my onion. This is one medium-sized yellow onion, and this is green pepper. This is 1 cup, which is about a half of a green pepper. So I'm going to go ahead and warm up my pan here while we're talking. For a basic spaghetti sauce without meat in it, I put different seasonings in it that I would if I was actually using meat. And one of the reasons is because I want to enhance that tomato flavor more and bring those flavors out that I have in here. Whereas when you put meat in, like Italian sausage or just a pork or a beef or a chicken, that actually adds more depth to your tomato sauce. So by me using different spices, it's going to enhance and it will give it a different flavor than you're used to. So I'm going to go ahead and put some olive oil in. And this is not the extra virgin olive oil. I use extra virgin like when I'm making salad dressings or like a dip to go with bread, that kind of thing. But when I'm cooking, I don't use that. I use just like the second or third pressing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the bottom of this pan with the olive oil. And once that starts, I think it needs a little bit more. So it's probably about 2 tablespoons in there. And so while that is still heating up there, I'm going to go ahead and show you what I do for my garlic. This is a bulb of garlic, and this is like a little mallet that I have. So if I want to break this open, a lot of people use the side of their knife. For myself, I don't really care to do that. So I just kind of go like that. And see how they just pop right out? So I'm going to go ahead and move this over to the side. And I'm just going to move this over so you guys can see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to smash it, just like that. And I'm going to take that peel off. And I'm going to smash it again. And see how that is there? That's plenty to start my sauce with. But I'm not going to put that in right now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in the onion and the green pepper. And it's sizzling, so we know that the pot is hot enough. And let's go ahead and put the green pepper in there too. And well, you can use whatever type of onion you have on hand. By all means, if you have a red onion and you want to use that, feel free to do that. Or the dahlia, or a white onion. Use what you have. There we go. So I usually use a wooden spoon when I'm doing stuff like this. And the straws have, and it helps to prevent you from scratching your pans a lot too. So I'm going to go ahead and move my knife over to the side and this stuff. And I don't put my garlic in right away because I don't want it to burn. Let's just pipe up this. You can smell that already starting to cook. It smells good.
Yes, you can.
So while that is starting to settle in there, I'll show you the next thing I do. I usually can my own tomatoes, but I'm out of them for the rest of this year. for the season. In the next few weeks I'll be able to can more. When I like to get the tomatoes when they're very ripe, and that's when I can. But in the meantime, I buy cans of tomatoes. This is a San Marzano tomato. And you can tell, look how red that is. And the sauce in it is super red and rich too. See that?
Pretty red.
And I usually use the whole tomatoes. I'm just going to rinse my hands off because I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with those tomatoes. Before we started, I knew that I was going to be using my hands and stuff like this or this, so I make sure I take my rings off. And I also bring up, like if I have my bracelets on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to crush these by hand. They'll cook up much better than if you got the diced ones. Whoa! Sorry about that. And they also can be messy, but they are yummy. Whoa! I might keep them down inside the juice like I usually do, because
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
They're all over the front of me.
I usually always do it underneath, but I wanted to show you what I was doing, but I made a mess. That's all right. But anyway, these tomatoes are really nice and ripe and full of flavor. They're sweeter. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up my mess here, and I'll be right back and we'll continue. Well, welcome back. If that wasn't a mess, and we took a little bit there to clean that up, and I do recall now why I always do it under the juice, but I wanted to show you how I do it. So that was an experience for all of us.
Yeah.
So in other words, always do it under the juice and you won't have a problem.
That's why I'm wearing an apron now too.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I wear an apron when I'm cooking. So anyway, you can see how this is starting to cook down. And I'm going to go ahead and add in that 1 clove of garlic that's smashed. And that'll cook down into the sauce and just kind of dissolve. I very seldom use the garlic press because that's usually the way I do my garlic, is smashing it like that. So I'm going to just move that over here. And then the next thing I do is I start to add some of my herbs. And I use a mortar and pestle. And what I had that I put in here was rosemary leaves, thyme leaves, and fennel. I did a half of a teaspoon of the rosemary leaves, and I did a half a teaspoon of thyme leaves, and then the fennel I did about 3/4. And one of the reasons I do the fennel a little bit more, because in Italian sausage they put fennel, and it really gives it a nice flavor in this sauce. So I went ahead and I just kind of ground that up a little bit more than it usually is, because the fennel seeds, I'll show you what a fennel seed looks like before you grind it up. And when I grind it up, I'll just take you, see there's fennel and rosemary and thyme in there, but you can see how that's already ground up pretty good. And we're going to just go ahead and put that right in here. And by putting it in now, it helps to bloom those herbs. They're going to start to absorb the oils that are in the pan here, and just makes it start to come together good. Okay, and I'm going to also put in some marjoram, and I'm going to do about a half a teaspoon. And parsley, I do about a teaspoon. And oregano, about a teaspoon. Oh, it smells so good already.
Yes, it does.
And also I'm going to be putting in a small bay leaf. And that kind of wakens it up when you put it in here with the oils and the veggies to start awakening. So then the next thing I'm going to do is I want to make sure I've put everything in that I need to at the moment, and I have. So the tomatoes here are the whole ones that I crushed up and made a mess. I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. I put a spoon like that.
Stand back.
To make sure it doesn't splatter all over the place. It smells so good. And I'm going to put a little bit of tomato paste in. And make sure you use a good brand of tomato paste. This is double concentrated, and it adds a lot of flavor. Sometimes I'll actually brown the tomato paste in before I put my tomatoes in, but I didn't do that today. This sauce doesn't really require that because it has a lot of flavor going on with the herbs. And I put about a tablespoon there. We can always add more, but we can't take away, so. I'll stir that up. Oh, it smells good. So then the next thing I do, I'm going to set this over here for a moment, is I'm going to add a little bit of garlic powder, just a few dashes. Maybe like 1/8 of a teaspoon, because you already have garlic in there, so you don't want to do too much. And the same with the onion powder, probably about the same. And I always put in some crushed red pepper flakes, probably about like that, maybe at the most 1/4 of a teaspoon. If you don't like a lot of heat, you can leave that out. You can use black pepper, whatever you like. The next 3 ingredients I use, I was taught by a lady who was, I think, in her late 80s, maybe early 90s, years ago, and she was from Sicily. And she taught me to put nutmeg, a little bit of allspice, and a little bit of ground clove in. And I'll tell you, it really helps. So I'm going to do a few dashes of this. And all 3 of these, a little bit goes a long way. So, and see how this is bigger holes? So I'm going to use my hand. And that's actually more than I want. About like that. So that's not even a smidgen. You can always add, remember, but you can't take away. So be cautious when you're using these. And the cloves, I even use less than I did of the allspice. And all of those spices are very healthy as well. But people go, the sauce is so good, but what is it that's different? And when you tell them, they're like, wow. And cinnamon is another one that I sometimes will put in, but today I'm not going to. And that's kind of the fun thing when you're cooking. It's your kitchen. You can put in whatever you want, whatever your family wants. You can switch it up so you're not eating the same thing all the time. So I went ahead and I rinsed out my can. I've got a little bit of water in there, so I'm just going to add maybe 1/2 cup right now. And I've got one last ingredient that I put in. I use this a lot in cooking, and it's the Yoshida's Gourmet sauce. It's like a teriyaki sauce. A lot of people put sugar and stuff like that in their sauces for tomato sauce, but sometimes I like to put this in, and I decided tonight this is what we're going to do. I'm going to start with about 1 tablespoon. I can always add if I want. That was probably a very scant tablespoon, probably more like a teaspoon. That's all there is to it. And this is going to probably saute here for a couple of hours. So I'll be back in a couple of hours. I'm going to turn this down on the lowest setting on my stove. And if it bubbles too much, I'll put a diffuser underneath it to help it so it cooks slower. But because my stovetop does tend to cook hot. So anyway, I'll see you back in a couple of hours. Well, my sauce here has been cooking now for probably about 25 minutes. And I did have a lid on it. I just took it off so you guys could see. And at this point, I put in about 1/4 cup of dark red dry wine. You don't want a sweet wine in this, and make sure you use something that you would like to drink yourself, because you're putting it in your food, so use something that you like. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pour that in, and I'm going to stir it up and we'll see what it looks like.
It's definitely dry. I can smell that, the dryness of it.
And actually, it's not quite 1/4 cup I put in, more like 1/8, a little over 1/8. So I think that's going to be fine, and we can always add the remainder later if we want, or I can drink it. So anyway,
that's what you'll do.
I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on this and let it simmer for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours, and we'll see you later. Hi, well, our sauce is done, and it smells so good.
Yes, it does.
And I left it on low the whole time. Part of the time I did put the lid ajar, just a little to help it reduce more. But look how nice and thick and rich that sauce is.
Looks good, Miss Clove. Smells good, looks good.
And tonight we're going to serve this with a pasta that we have actually just come across, and I'm sure that you guys, many of you have heard of it before. It's called cassarisi. I believe that's how you say it. This particular pasta is from Sicily. That's where were originated from. And it's a short pasta. In fact, I'm going to show you in the pot here what it looks like. I just got done cooking this. It's hot, but it's twisted pasta, and it is delicious. So we're going to serve our spaghetti sauce with that tonight, and I'll show you what it looks like in the bowl here. And then we'll also take a picture of it with the pasta. But look how nice that is.
Very nice, Miss Clove.
So it's too hot to eat at the moment, but I just wanted to kind of show you. And remember, I only did probably 1/2 cup of water to the tomato that I had in there, along with a tablespoon of the concentrated tomato paste, and about a large 1/8 cup of dry red wine. And that was the only liquid that I included besides the water. And it's just cooked down and made a beautiful vegetarian type spaghetti sauce for dinner. And like I said, I make many different types, but this one is very healthy and delicious and so simple. So I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, if you would please like and subscribe to our channel, we would really appreciate it. I hope you have a great night. Bye.